Okay, let's have a go at 4 more equations, and let's have a go at balancing these 4. Some of these are a little trickier than the ones on the first part of the video. So we will continue to make a table with our elements, and this first equation is how we actually get pure iron out of iron oxide. So it's a very valuable equation. And let's tot up the iron atoms. We've got 2 here and 1 over there. The oxygen atoms, we've got 3 here and 1 there, so on the left hand side we've got 4, and on the right hand side we've just got 2. And the carbon atoms, we've got 1 here and 1 on the right. So it appears that it should be quite easy to sort the ions. Let's put a 2 here, and that means we've got 2 ions and 2 on the left hand side, so they're sorted. The oxygens, 4 and 2. So we're going to play around with the numbers a little bit because it's not immediately obvious how to solve this. So let's put a 2 here. And what that does is it means we've got 2 lots of carbon on the right, but it does mean we've got 4 lots of oxygen on the right. So the oxygen's sorted, but the carbon isn't. So let's have a go at sorting that by putting a 2 there, and that means we've got 2 carbons rather than the 1. But unfortunately, oh dear, it spoils the oxygen balancing that had happened, because we've got 3 there and 2 there. So that means we've got 5, which is a bit of a pain. Oh dear. So that's not right. We're not balanced yet. So let's have another go. And well, rather than using 2, now I apologise, my rubbers, my sort of eraser on here is pretty unimpressive. So I'm just going to have to scroll over things. But instead of using 2 on the carbon dioxide on the right hand side, let's use 3, and let's see if that works. Ideally, when you're doing this, you should be doing it with a pencil and rubbing out your working. So let's have a go. So that means we've got 3 lots of carbon there, and 6 lots of oxygen. Okay, so if I've got 3 carbons, let's have a go at putting a 3 there. Let's put a 3 in. So what does that do? Well, that turns our carbon into 3. So wonderful news, our carbon is sorted. So we've got 3 oxygens as well. 3 oxygens here. That means we've got 6 oxygens. And we're nice and balanced. 6, 6, 3, 3, 2, 2. We are balanced. And if you got there on your own, well done. The next one I think is slightly easier. So let's have a go. Here's the iron, hydrogen and oxygen. So iron, we've got 1 on the left and 3 on the right. Hydrogen, we've got 2 on the left and 2 on the right. And oxygen, we've got 1 here and 4 over there. Right. Where should we go? Well, shall we try and balance the ions to start with? They seem quite straightforward, so let's put a 3 in there, and that means we've sorted our ions out. Hydrogen, well, that appears sorted, but let's have a go at the oxygen. So if I've got 4 over here and 1 over here, let's try putting a 4 in there. Now what that does, it means we've now got 4 oxygens. Okay, so we've got 4 lots of that. Unfortunately, we've now got 8 hydrogens. The hydrogens that were sorted before are no longer sorted. We've got 8 of those. But 8 to 2, well, that's quite a nice ratio. What about if we put a 4 over here? Does that sort our problems out? It means that instead of having 2, we've got 8, and it does. These numbers are the same as those numbers, which means we have the same number of atoms on the left and on the right, so our equation is balanced. Right, the fourth one. So we've got silver, nitrogen, oxygen, chlorine and copper. Oh, this is going to be a right mess. Let's have a go at making that a little bit smaller. And I wish when making the slides I'd left myself a little bit more space. Nitrogen, oxygen, copper, and chlorine. We just about fit the 5. Right, so here you'll notice we've got brackets, so I've made that a little bit trickier. And let's have silver count up. So I've got 1 silver here and 1 silver on the right. Nitrogen, I've got 1 there, and I've got 1 in the brackets, but a 2 next to the brackets. That means I've got 2 of those. So I've got 2 lots of whatever's in the brackets. So I've got 1 and then a 2. Oxygen, I've got 3 here. I've got 3 here, but I've got 2 lots of that bracket. So that means overall I've got 6. So 3, 6. Copper, I've got 1 here. I've got 1 here. And chlorine, well, I've got 2 here and 1 there. So 2 and 1. Good. Right, now this might appear quite tricky, but coppers seem to be sorted. Okay, but chlorines aren't. So why don't we stick... Well, why don't we try and sort the chlorines out to start with? So I'm going to put a 2 here in front of AgCl. So what that does, it turns our silver, well, it doubles the number of silver we've got, and it doubles the number of chlorines we've got. Okay, now that sorts our chlorines out, but it messes up our silvers. So what about if I put a 2 here? So I've got 2 AgNO3. It's quite difficult to see with all the writing on this page, I apologise. So let's put a 2 here, so I'm going to use a slightly thicker pen. Now, of course, I recommend you use a pencil. So we've got 2 silvers there, that means we've got 2 nitrogens. Okay, and I've now got 2 lots of 3 oxygens, which makes 6. So there's my 6 here. And almost by accident, we seem to have balanced it. We've got 2 lots of silver, 2 lots of nitrogen, 6 lots of oxygen, 1 lot of copper, and 2 lots of chlorine. Now what you need to try and start doing, and this is maybe ambitious at this point, is to try to get away without doing the table. Okay, so if you're getting these quite quickly, you might ignore the table. So I'm going to ignore the table for the 4th one, and I'm just going to talk it through. So we've got 3 carbons there, and only 1 carbon here. So I'm going to try with a big 3 there. Now that sorts the carbons out. Okay, now I've got 8 hydrogens here. I've got 2 over here. So why don't we put a 4 here? Okay, so my carbon was sorted. My hydrogen is now sorted. Let's see about our oxygen. So over here we've got 2. And on the right hand side we've got 3 lots of 2, which makes 6. Plus these 4 here. 6 plus 4 is 10. How do we get 2 up to 10? We can put a big 5 in there like that. So they might not always work out as quickly as the one I've just done there did, but try to move away from using the table eventually and carry on using your rubber, keep rubbing out the numbers and doing the working out in your head if that's possible. If not, just stick with the table, it doesn't matter too much. I hope the video was useful. Coming up there'll be a video on how to make complete balanced equations starting from word equations.